Water is the essence of life. It flows across borders, connecting countries, cultures, and ecosystems. But what happens when something so vital and interconnected becomes a point of conflict? What happens when upstream nations build massive dams, cutting off downstream neighbors? Or when pollution from one country contaminates a shared river? Welcome to the intricate world of international water law, a field of law that ensures fairness, cooperation, and sustainability in managing transboundary water resources. Let me start with a story. Imagine two families sharing a well at the border of their lands. Family A decides to pump out as much water as possible to fill their swimming pool. Meanwhile, Family B is left with barely enough to drink. This imbalance creates tension. To avoid such conflicts, the families agree to rules: how much water each can use, what they can't do, like pollute the well, and how disputes will be resolved. This, on a much larger scale, is what international water law seeks to achieve. There are around 260 transboundary rivers and lakes in the world, like the Nile, the Amazon, and yes, the Indus. These water systems cross political boundaries, connecting upstream and downstream nations. In fact, over 60% of the world's freshwater flows across borders, meaning cooperation is not a choice, it's a necessity. Throughout history, rivers have been a source of both cooperation and conflict. In ancient Mesopotamia, city-states like Lagash and Umma had disputes over the Tigris and Euphrates rivers as far back as 2500 BCE. Even then, treaties were signed to share water equitably. Fast forward to modern times, one of the oldest agreements still in effect is the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty between India and Pakistan, a rare example of successful water sharing even during wartime. But what happens when there's no agreement, no framework? Take the Aral Sea, which lost 60% of its volume because upstream countries diverted rivers for agriculture. Or the Nile River, where Ethiopia's Renaissance Dam project has downstream Egypt worried about its water supply. These problems underline why international water law is critical, not just to avoid disputes, but to ensure fair use of water, preserve ecosystems, and address climate challenges. So, what exactly is international water law? At its core, it's a set of rules and principles that govern how countries share and manage water resources crossing their borders. Think of it as a legal framework for cooperation and sustainability. Principle 1. Equitable and reasonable use. Every nation sharing a water body has the right to use it, but reasonably. For example, under the Indus Waters Treaty, Pakistan uses most of the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, while India uses the eastern ones, Ravi, Beas, Sutlej. Despite flaws, this principle helps balance needs. Principle 2. No significant harm. Countries must avoid actions that harm neighbors. For instance, building a dam that floods another country is a violation. A notable dispute occurred in the 1950s over the Helmand River between Iran and Afghanistan, illustrating this principle. Principle 3. Cooperation. Finally, countries must work together. The Nile Basin Initiative, involving 11 countries, is an example of fostering dialogue even when disagreements arise. Now imagine this. Two neighboring countries, Aqualand and Drytopia, share a river. Aqualand builds a dam for hydropower but fails to warn Drytopia. The result? Drytopia's farms are devastated, leading to protests and strained relations. This scenario might seem fictional, but it's the reality many nations face without legal safeguards.
International water law isn't just about preventing conflicts. It's about creating opportunities. It's about nations coming together to solve common problems, like pollution, scarcity, and climate change impacts on water resources.